Hi, and welcome back to Silenced Voices. I'm Gracie.
And I'm Claire.
And today we're going to be talking about a multitude of topics that have to do with different types of sexual assault.
Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So we thought that this would be a really good opportunity to dive into a lot of the different aspects of it and different things that count as sexual assault and sexual harassment that are oftentimes overlooked.
So today we're going to talk about topics that everyone has probably heard of or experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And we will start by talking about revenge porn and unsolicited pictures, and then move into locker room talk and street harassment with a concentration on catcalling.
Mm-hmm.
So we've decided to talk about these issues because they're invasive, and it's important to talk about what they mean and why they contribute to the culture that sexual assault thrives in. These topics all include the objectification of someone else.
So if we want to just dive right into it, we're going to start with revenge porn, which, if you have ever heard of it, it is when a photo of someone who is nude or mostly nude or in some sort of compromising position is shared or posted without their consent. And this is usually done, you'll hear stories of after breakups, someone who has nudes of their ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, ex-partner, and they will share them on some sort of social media or to their friends to kind of get some sort of revenge for how they feel.
And so these photos can be taken consensually, like by an intimate partner, or they can be taken secretly or forcibly, but the release of them is never consensual, and that's the part that makes it revenge porn.
Mm-hmm.
And so the pictures might be released by the person who took it or was sent the photo, or they might be released by a hacker.
Mm-hmm. So you'll hear, in terms of like hacking or things like that, you will hear a lot of times when celebrities' nudes get leaked, it is someone who has gotten hold of these pictures through, getting onto their phone or their computer, hacking their system, and they will release this to the public or to some friends, and that is basically where revenge porn comes from.
So 1 in 25 Americans have been victim to this or have been threatened to have photos released. So in retrospect, that's about 10 million Americans.
And then 1 in 10 women under the age of 30 have been threatened with non-consensual image release, which is revenge porn. I know personally of several stories. I know so many, specifically women, that this has happened to. I don't know about you. I know in high school there was a couple that had been on and off for a couple years, and they broke up. They were a few years older than me, and the boyfriend in this situation, the ex-boyfriend, shared a couple of pictures of the girlfriend, the ex-girlfriend in the situation, and she was in her underwear, and they were pictures that she had taken and sent to him in confidence that they would never be shared, and he posted them to his Snapchat story. He did delete them after a few minutes, but at that point they were screenshotted, they were shared, and the damage was done.
And I know personally that a few years before I was in high school, a local high school where I lived, boys specifically printed off nudes or pictures of girls in their underwear or a bra, and they passed them around and traded them like baseball cards, and they had points written on them, so it was a point system, and the police actually got involved, and some people were arrested, and it was shut down. But it was this huge thing for years where they would trade pictures of girls like baseball cards, and unfortunately some girls were willing to do it if they had a certain amount of points for it, because it had become such a thing that they
felt like that gave them self-worth. That's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting.
And that's another thing with all these topics. When you objectify women, it can really attack their psyche, especially young girls. It can make them think that their worth is based on their image and their body parts and what they look like, and that's just not true.
And I mean, historically, revenge porn does happen more often to women. Women are more often the victims of revenge porn, and obviously, we know that it does happen to men as well. And lots of celebrity men specifically are ones who will get their nudes leaked by hackers, for example.
So our next topic is unsolicited pictures, which kind of relates because revenge porn can be sent consensually or they can be forced to take the pictures, but unsolicited pictures are when you send someone a picture of you nude or half nude and they don't want it. So the technical definition is being sent, particularly over text, Snapchat, AirDrop, or even in a conference call like Zoom, sexual pictures without asking for them.
I know personally, I can't think of a single girl that has told me she's never received a dick pic. I know I have, and specifically unsolicited.
Yeah.
And
I know guys do too, but sometimes guys will be like, oh, well, I'm not mad about it, but they didn't ask for them. So that's still the same thing as unsolicited pictures. Like, whether you like them or you don't, like, you still
didn't ask for it.
Yeah, and you still shouldn't send them unless someone asks. And you shouldn't send pictures of yourself unless you want to. It should never be something you feel like you have to do.
If you are uncomfortable with the idea of sending a picture of yourself like that, you don't have to do it. It doesn't matter if you're in a relationship, and it doesn't mean that you don't trust your partner. Maybe it just means you don't trust the internet. It means that you don't trust other people, and you don't trust the history of revenge porn, for example.
And also, like, sometimes people just aren't comfortable taking pictures of themselves like that for multiple different reasons, and you don't have to do that. Even if the person has seen you naked, you do not need to send pictures of yourself compromised if you don't want to.
Right. And actually, studies show that 41% of millennial women have experienced receiving unsolicited nude pictures.
And among women aged 18 to 24 who have ever received a quote-unquote dick pic, 78% were under 18 the first time they got one, which is illegal. If you send someone a nude photo and you're underage, that's illegal, regardless of who the person is that you're sending it to. Like, you cannot have a photo of someone under the age of 18.
If you are 16 years old and you send a nude picture of yourself to another 16-year-old classmate, that is still child pornography. That could get you in trouble, that could get them in trouble, and it's just bad news.
Yeah, it's just, like, there's different ways to be intimate with someone or anything like that. You just want to make sure that you're not getting in trouble and you're not getting someone else in trouble.
How old were you when you first received an unsolicited dick pic?
13, 14.
13, 14? Oh my god.
And I was also forced to send them when I didn't want to.
Yeah, that's really gross.
Yeah. And yeah, I was probably 14, 15 at that time. But I'm also young for my age. So, like, I was 13 in high school until the end of...
Yeah, right. You're young for your grade.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. I know. I'm actually not in that 78%. I didn't receive my first unsolicited dick pic until I was 18. Doesn't make it any better. Still gross. But I had also... This is another common thing. I had seen them in chat rooms, you know, like Omegle, a really popular one. My sister and I would go on it in middle school, and we would go to just, like, meet people and talk to people, and...
It's a goofy thing. Like, Omegle, I wouldn't recommend it because a lot of people are just on there to do weird things and be naked and see other people naked.
And people can track you, but that is a whole nother thing that I would love to dive into in another episode. If you guys are interested in that, please let us know. There are so many scandals about that and how it contributes to rape culture and sexual assault and sex trafficking. But no, I was probably 11 or 12 years old on a chat room with my sister when I saw my first unsolicited video of a dick on Omegle.
Yeah, I used to do the same thing in middle school. We would go on it just to have fun, and it was just, there was things on there that we definitely should not have seen.
Mm-hmm. Now, here is a topic that you have definitely heard of, and that is locker room talk. The term originated in 2016 after ex-president Donald Trump's infamous saying, "Grab them by the pussy."
So it was developed as an excuse for disgusting talk about women. So there's actually not a definition for this term because it was created so recently, and it's not a thing. Like, it's not a thing. So Urban Dictionary has 2 definitions, and I see problems with both definitions that we'll talk about. But so Trump didn't really make it up, but he used it as an excuse and it became popular. So in 2009, someone wrote, "The crude, vulgar, offensive, and often sexual trade of comments guys pass to each other, usually in high school locker rooms, exists solely for the purpose of male comedy and is not meant to be taken seriously."
With that, I just want to say, words about women's bodies, or anyone's bodies for that matter, are not jokes, and it's not comedy, and it's not funny. And I really think that if that's your idea of comedy,
you need a new
sense of humor. And that's not us not getting the joke. That's not us trying to, like, be offended over nothing. It's gross and belittling to talk about people in these sexual or compromising positions when they don't want you to, whether you think it's funny or not, because that really can hurt so many people in the long run.
And the problem I have with this definition is, if it stopped where after it said usually in high school locker rooms, that would be a perfect definition. But the part that says exists solely for the purpose of male comedy and is not meant to be taken seriously seems to place the blame on the person, quote unquote, not, like, the person taking it seriously.
Yeah, it's placing the blame on the people who are offended about it, which should not be the case. If you're offended that someone's talking about your body, it's that person's fault for talking about your body. It's never your fault for being upset about it.
And locker room talk should just not be a thing. There's a difference between talking to your friends about a partner in a respectful manner, but when you start to objectify someone else, that's where it becomes wrong and crude, vulgar, and offensive.
A second definition, published in 2017 on Urban Dictionary, says that locker room talk is any manner of conversation that polite society dictates to be held privately with small groups of like-minded, similarly gendered peers due to its sexually charged language, situations, or innuendos.
And the problem I have with this one is the polite society aspect. Like, again, there's in-group and there's out-group. There's 2, it's polarized when it shouldn't be. Like, this is just conversation that shouldn't happen. And the definition should just say, this happens with small groups of like-minded people, normally the same gender, and it's usually sexually charged language, situation, and innuendos.
Kind of saying that polite society doesn't want it to happen is calling society prudes.
Yeah.
I think that's stupid, and I think it's ridiculous. And I mean, I'm not going to say that I have never been in the presence of locker room talk, because I mean, girls do it too. Girls will talk about,
will objectify men, and I'll admit to the fact that I've done that from time to time.
100, yeah, and I recognize that it's wrong, and but, like, you know, you're young, you're in high school or something, and a girl's talking about she just had sex with a dude for the first time, and you guys are all talking about it, and you're asking questions, and then you start to, like, make little jokes and jabs, and it seems so innocent, but it's not. It's not innocent. You're sitting there, and this person doesn't know that you're talking about them in this sexual way, and
you're objectifying them.
Them.
It all comes down to thinking as someone as an object that you can describe to someone else, and that's not who a human being is, and that's why it shouldn't happen. So, important things to take away from locker room talk are that association with words are powerful, and they're typically hard to undo. So with this, it means they prime us to think certain ways, and we don't even notice it. So if people are hearing locker room talk, even if you say you don't objectify women, it's proven that those words do something to your subconscious, so you start to think as women more as an object. Not solely as an object, but more as one than just a person.
I personally remember so many rumors from high school that originated from this locker room talk, and I would hear things about other girls my age from guys my age. I would hear about other guys my age from girls my age, and so on and so on. And it's things that kind of subconsciously stick with you. Like, you will associate someone with what other people say about them.
So why men don't speak up? With research that I did, it says that some men just want to belong and don't want to rock the boat, so they swallow their pride and let things happen. So they just don't want to go against what's going on so that they don't get picked on or they don't feel like they're outside the group.
Mm-hmm. And it's sad, but it's understandable. And we aren't condoning not speaking up, but I understand it.
I get it. I mean, I've been in that situation.
I've been in the situation. So many people have been in that situation where you don't feel comfortable telling people, hey, like, knock it off. That's not cool. Because so many people, and this happens a lot with survivors, and you'll see this on our Instagram. We constantly have people, berating survivors or our account or other accounts for being sensitive or easily offended. And that's just, it's not the case.
And it's, especially with this, it's like, it's the whole effect where you think if no one else is doing it, you shouldn't do it. Or it's the same thing as some people who pass an accident. They won't call 911 because they're like, oh, someone else probably already did, or someone behind me will. Mm-hmm. So it's very hard to get over that and speak up every time, but you really should. Like, you should try to just, you don't have to be confrontational or rude. You can just be like, I don't want to be a part of this. Let's just not talk about it.
Right.
And another reason is some want to be accepted by others, so they don't care about moral decency.
They're putting their social standing above their moral values, which, once again, is understandable. People do that all the time. Everyone's done it. And it's nothing to dwell on. You shouldn't feel overly guilty for it, but I think as a society we need to recognize that behavior and change it. And I think if we want to better ourselves as humans, we should stop caring about that social standing over our morality.
And one of the last reasons I saw was we're wired as humans to be more empathetic to those in our in-group versus those in our out-group. So I read about a study where men and women of different races, genders, ethnicity, and religions were split up.
We're very cliquey beings.
Yeah, and they normally wouldn't be groups together. But in this study, they were told, these are your people and these are not your people. So they were more empathetic to those in their designated in-group than out-group. And that just shows that that's how humans are more wired. So it's harder to be empathetic towards others than those who you relate to the most.
We just need to rewire ourselves.
Yeah.
We really do.
And honestly, everyone just needs to acknowledge their mistakes and do better. Mm-hmm. And everyone can start moving forward.
But, kind of talking about when you should speak up, let's talk about when you shouldn't speak up and talk about street harassment.
Yeah, so this is a large and lengthy definition. But again, this is another one that didn't have a designated definition. But Stop Street Harassment is a big organization, and they defined it as gender-based street harassment is unwanted comments, gestures, and actions forced on a stranger in a public place without their consent and is directed at them because of their actual or perceived sex, gender expression, or sexual orientation. Mm-hmm. So, in layman terms, it's when you address someone who doesn't want you to, without their consent, about what they look like.
Their body, their person. It's these unnecessary comments that are often perceived as compliments, or people say that mostly women, they say women should take these things as compliments. And if someone's talking about you or talking about your body or how they see you, that it should be a compliment. But, you know, if you're just going about your day and I don't know, you don't need to be harassed. You don't need people constantly calling you out and pointing out things about your body. And I just don't get it. And I don't understand the complimentary aspect of it. And I mean, if you want to pay someone a compliment, go up to them, be a genuine person, be like, hey, I just want to let you know your eyes are really, really nice. Or like, those are some really sick shoes. Like, you can compliment somebody without yelling across the sidewalk some sort of usually derogatory term.
And two things with that. This whole street harassment is normally judging a book by its cover. You're judging the person based on what they look like on the outside to you. And the second part is, you can go up to someone and give them a compliment genuinely and have no ill will, but if they feel threatened, your responsibility is to leave. Not to explain yourself. It's, I've made this person uncomfortable, I feel bad about it, I'm going to exit the situation. Because it can still be, for anyone who has been sexually assaulted or harassed, it can still be scary to have anyone walk up to them and say something to them face to face. So you just have to be respectful of everyone's boundaries.
It's not their fault for being uncomfortable. It's your fault for making them uncomfortable. And even if you didn't intend to make someone uncomfortable, if you have a history of giving people quote unquote compliments on the street and they seem upset about it, maybe you should stop.
Yeah.
Approach your compliments in a different way. I promise you will be all right.
And another fact we found about street harassment is, of the men and boys and women and girls who have been street harassed, most of the harassing is done by other men and boys. So it's one of those things that we recognize that women do it too. And I was talking to my boyfriend about this post, and he said, well, have you thought about stuff that happens off the street? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I was a pool boy, and I had all these typical middle-aged women who were so interested in the pool boys, I was harassed at my job. So that is still terrible. That falls under workplace harassment.
Probably a little bit of catcalling, but like street harassment specifically is
on the street.
Because it's you know what prompts all the conversations of being scared to walk alone, whether it's at night or in the middle of the day. I absolutely love East Carolina. I absolutely love Greenville, but I will be honest, I don't feel comfortable walking here alone, no matter what the time of day is. It's gross. I've been harassed on the street countless times, but I will bring that up when it comes to catcalling.
Yeah, and street harassment happens on the street, and typically it's an unplanned interaction. So it wasn't like stalking that led to this person being harassed. It was just a random occurrence.
Right.
But some stats on it. 65% of all American women have experienced street harassment. 9% of those who have been street harassed have been forced to do something sexual. 25% of men have been street harassed, and of 811 American women, 99% have experienced harassment.
Yeah, and that's a really big pool to pick from. I mean, like, that's like 800 people. 99% of those women had experienced harassment. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know.
So, on a happier note, or some like ways to counteract street harassment, educating men and boys is really important. So it's better if it comes from a male, and it needs to have healthy definitions of masculinity.
I think historically, a lot of sexual harassment education comes from women. And
it's about how women cannot be harassed. And that's not going to work because they're not the ones doing the well, they are the ones doing the harassing, but in the scenarios that they teach you, it's how to prevent being harassed by someone else.
Right. But also, like, in the case of our group, we are 6 young women who share information. We really try to be inclusive to all genders, all people, because we do recognize that it happens to everybody. But I think that the change really is rooted with men, and it's such a deep topic, and it's all rooted in society, and there are men and boys who will not take this sort of criticism from women because they see
or constructive feedback.
Yeah, right, because they see it as women attacking men or as generalizing men, which is not what we're trying to do by this section of the podcast at all, because we do recognize that men can be survivors, men can be victims of these horrible things as well. But we really think that change will come with education towards men and preventative measures taken by men. You know, we need to make this topic much less of a taboo.
Mm-hmm. And much less of a women's issue.
Yes, it's everyone's issue. It's not a women's issue. It's an everyone issue.
And so another way of educating men and boys would be teach men and boys specific messages about street harassment so that they understand why women don't like it, why it's not a compliment, and they will stop or not engage in the behavior. Mm-hmm. So some of these specific messages can be what Claire did earlier and say, instead of yelling across the street, you walk up and you say, I really like your shoes, or your eyes are super pretty. That's one way to engage with women with decreasing the likelihood of making them feel threatened. Mm-hmm. And there's also ways to just engage with women in general. I saw this TikTok 2 days ago of this man. He was like, I'm 6'3", I look intimidating, and I can tell that when I'm walking on the street at night, women that I'm walking near, because we're going in the same direction, are threatened. He was like, I always cross the street or I lag back to try to give them space to make them feel more comfortable, but what can I do to make women feel more comfortable? He was opening the conversation, and that's what you have to do in order to understand how you can help in a situation that you might not play a role in making it bad, but you are a player in the game.
Everyone's a player in the game.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be perceived as we're living in a sensitive world, because we're not. We're living in a broken world full of people who have experienced really horrible things, people who are scared to go outside. And this is a really popularized topic right now, especially on social media, is not all men. And that's true. It isn't all men, but because so many women specifically have experienced sexual assault or sexual harassment, they are scared of men, or we stay very alert of our surroundings. And I know that there are men as well who do this too. And actually, when we first began Find Your Voice, we did some preliminary interviews, and we made sure to get different ages and genders. I remember talking to a good friend of mine who is actually in the same honors college program that we are. And he had a girlfriend at the time, and the three of us had gone to high school together. I was conducting this interview, and I'm like, would you want your girlfriend walking around campus at night? He was like, no, absolutely not. I was like, well, do you walk around campus at night? He's like, yeah, I have no problem walking around campus at night, but he was like, I wouldn't even want you walking. He was like, I don't want any of the girls in this class walking around campus at night, because, I mean, and I get it. Like, it's scary, and it was refreshing to hear someone agree with that.
And the thing is a lot of people would never want their wives or daughters in situations, but sometimes they can be a part of the situations that they don't want their daughters in. So they may catcall, but they would hate if someone ever catcalled their daughter. And that's just like, you have to stop doing it in order for future generations to be safe and not have to experience it.
I think we need to approach these sort of situations with the mindset of, would we want our loved ones to experience this? If not, we should not say or do those actions. Don't treat people the way that you wouldn't want. So some bystander tips for if you witness some sort of street harassment, or really any sort of any of these topics that we've talked about or that we will talk about, is that it's always better to indirectly intervene in situations. It's all about your safety, the safety of those around you, to not make it a big, physical altercation and not make a big scene, because that could really prove dangerous for everyone in the situation. It's important to maybe create a distraction to kind of diffuse the situation and kind of move on from what just happened.
You can also talk to the victim, and this can happen in many different ways. You can act like you know the person. You can be like, oh my God, Susie, I haven't seen you in so long. Let's catch up. Let's go get a coffee. Offer them a way out. Or you can walk up to the person who's being harassed and say, do you feel safe?
Mm-hmm.
And this gives control to the victim. And this is very important.
Yeah.
Take the control away from the people doing this crime and give it to the victim. Be like, do you feel safe? Do you want my help? What can I do?
Mm-hmm. Offer your presence. Like if you see someone walking alone, and if you notice either whether they're being harassed on the street or not, ask them if they feel like walking home with you. Get a buddy to walk home with you. Walk home with someone that you think could feel unsafe.
And if you see something, say something. Never see something bad and just expect, oh, they'll be okay, they can get out of it, or someone else will help them. Make sure that you are trying to diffuse the situation in any way possible. And if you ask the victim, are you okay? Do you want my help? And they say they don't want their help, or they don't feel comfortable with you, leave the situation. You may be trying to help, but you actually might be making them feel worse, and they might just need you to back off, especially if they perceive you as another threat.
Right.
That can just make the whole situation worse. So just give the control to the victim, even if the control is telling you to go away.
Right. And I know personally, for those of you who don't go to East Carolina University, it is pretty well renowned as a little bit of a party school. So it's pretty common if you're driving around Thursday, Friday, Saturday night to see drunk people walking alone on the side of the road. And one time I actually saw a girl, she was walking like along a busy street completely alone. She was obviously like really intoxicated. She was wearing heels. She couldn't keep straight, almost falling in the road. And I stopped to make sure she was okay. See, she wanted a ride. And she let me know that she was on the phone with a friend walking home safely.
So catcalling.
This one's a fun one.
Yeah.
This is a fun one.
Something that happens all the time to a lot of people and has just gone, not unnoticed, but uncared about. And it should just stop being a thing. And before we get in to the definition, I think we both want to share our own stories.
Oh, yeah.
So I have so many. Just so many. But the one that happened recently was I needed to exercise for a kinesiology class, and I didn't want to go to the gym, and the parks were all flooded, so I decided to walk on a busy highway on the sidewalk. I was very safe, but I was just walking. Mm-hmm. I didn't have anything provocative on. I had leggings on with a shirt that covered my butt, which I shouldn't have had to worry about anyway, but I thought about it, and I was walking. Within the 30 minutes I walked, 15 minutes one way and 15 minutes the next, I was catcalled 6 times. And I was only outside for 30 minutes. And one of those 6 times was a group of men in a car that I passed that were yelling at me to come back and talk to them over and over again. And they kept slowing down when they would ride next to me.
That's gross.
Yeah. I
don't see how some people don't understand that that's not okay.
Yeah. And it's scary.
It's scary.
It literally makes you feel scared. It was broad daylight, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, very sunny, a lot of people, and I was terrified to walk.
Every time that I have been catcalled, it has been in the middle of the day, and it's ruined the rest of the day for me. One specific instance I can think of, it was our freshman year. We were in the dorms, and I was walking with a friend of ours down, it was 3 blocks down from our dorm to a local, like, dollar store. And I was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. And this guy pulled over, or he slowed down, honked, and he did that classic, like that kind of gross whistle. And it ruined my whole day. And I got back to my dorm, and I was hanging out with some friends, specifically some guy friends. And I told them, I was wearing sweatpants. Like, what's the deal? And they were like, well, like, you're dressed like that. I mean, I was like, what do you mean? I'm wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. They're like, yeah, but like, it hugs your figure. And that's gross. That's so gross.
And it shouldn't matter what you're wearing.
It shouldn't matter. Specifically, about maybe a month and a half ago, I was coming home. I had spent the night at a friend's house. And you know how you look when you leave a friend's house in the morning, absolutely looking like
trash.
Yeah, no, I was wearing this like old flannel, like fleece lined jacket that belonged to my dead grandfather, and I was driving in this like garbage truck kind of car, like absolutely horrible, like all messed up, nothing to whistle at. And I had just gone through the Taco Bell drive-thru at 10:30 in the morning to get a slushie. And I was met by whistles from construction workers when I had my window down. And I thought, it just made no sense to me.
It makes no sense, and it's just, if you don't feel scared, which a lot of people feel scared when it happens, you're just annoyed. And you're just like, I just do not understand what the purpose is. It's not a compliment. It is not a compliment. It's degrading, and it's like, okay, what the fuck?
Yeah, the first time I actually witnessed catcalling, it was my sister. She is a year above me, and my mom and I went to go visit her at her freshman year of college. And this specific time, it was nighttime, and the three of us were walking down, like near downtown by campus, and this guy rolled down his window and started yelling at my sister that he wanted her to come home with him, with her mother and younger sister right next to her. And later that night, my sister saw the same dude working in the cafeteria, working in the dining hall.
That's terrifying.
It's gross.
So, on to the definition. The definition of catcalling is the act of shouting, harassing, and often sexually suggestive, threatening, or derisive comments at someone publicly.
A really common defense of catcalling is that it's complimenting someone's looks or a woman's looks, and that's not how the woman feels or the person feels. It makes them feel scared and nervous, and it makes them feel like just an object for that. Even if it's just a 3-second interaction, it can make you feel like a sexual object for the rest of the day.
And it can scare you.
That's
the biggest thing.
Scare you. Because it doesn't matter if you're with a group of people or if you're by yourself, because someone decided that it was the best idea to shout something suggestive at you from across the street, from their car. It baffles me. It really does, because that person didn't care that you were with other people. They wanted to let you know that they saw you in that way. And
they wanted you in that way.
It doesn't make you feel good. Whether someone means it as a compliment, I don't think people ever mean it as a compliment. I think that's a really gross excuse. And I don't respect it as an excuse. I don't understand it as an excuse. I think it's gross, and there are much better ways to go about complimenting people.
And sometimes you can keep your compliments to yourself.
You can keep your compliments to yourself.
So it's really important to know that it's not cute, funny, or complimenting. It's degrading, demeaning, and disgusting.
Mhm.
And that's a quote. Okay, that's not me just saying it. Like, people think it's degrading, demeaning, and disgusting. It's
Mhm.
not cute, funny, or complimenting, so just don't do it.
It's really not. It's really not. And I actually I work at a restaurant chain, and it's starting to get a lot warmer outside. Obviously, it's end of spring, getting close to summer, and we're allowed to wear shorts now as our work uniform. And I work with this very sweet young boy. He's 17, and he came up to me and he said, "Claire, why are you wearing shorts? You're gonna get catcalled." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "Someone's gonna catcall you. You're wearing those shorts." And these were mom jean shorts, mid-thigh. Not that it matters, but they were respectable enough for work.
They were work.
They were
work shorts.
Work shorts. And I was like, "Hey, like you know that wouldn't be my fault if someone chose to catcall me." He's like, "But you're the one who put on the shorts." And it's a continuous conversation that the two of us have every time I go into work, and I try and I want to let him know that that's not how catcalling works, and
that's why educating is so important.
Educating's so important.
Because he can't wrap his mind around the fact that it is never the victim's fault, despite what they're wearing. It's the person who's doing the act.
Mm-hmm.
It's been pounded in so many people's head that the choices that we make before you're assaulted or harassed makes it your fault, and that's not the truth. You can do everything quote unquote wrong,
Mm-hmm.
deemed by society, and it's still not your fault. So some facts from girlscouts.org is that 1 in 10, so 10% of American girls will be catcalled before their 11th birthday. 11th. That is...
Ew.
11 years old is 5th or 6th grade students. That's disgusting.
How old were you when you were first catcalled?
Oh my god. I don't even... Probably young, because I used to go out with my friend, and we would take my younger brother, because he's 7 years younger than me, and we would like walk around my town. So I'm guessing I was probably around my 11th birthday. The first time I remember, I was in, 5th and 6th grade. So, yeah.
I mean, I know, like, the direct, like, definition of catcalling probably didn't happen until I was in high school or college, to me personally. But, yeah, like, around the age of 11 is when I started getting sexualized. Mm-hmm. I know, like, people had... It wasn't the traditional catcalling fashion, but I had several sexual remarks made about me before I was that age.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Which is disgusting.
It's gross. I did not know that fact until this podcast, and that really unsettles me.
And so, like, on girlscouts.org, it says that catcalling can make girls feel their value is based on their looks. So when you start doing it to someone who's in their developmental years, which is middle school typically, like late elementary, early middle school, you make them feel that their value as a human is based on their looks, and that can wire the brain in such a wrong fashion.
Mm-hmm. And it can make these girls feel ashamed of their bodies or threatened and feel like it's their fault for having the anatomy that they have, because it is so... I'm saying quote unquote. I want you to know that I'm doing air quotes right now, because it's their bodies, it's their anatomy is just so attractive naturally. It's gross. It's gross no matter what age the person is. I see zero excuse for catcalling.
And catcalling just promotes the culture that a woman's body is quote unquote up for grabs, and it's not. It's no one's piece of ass. It's no one's nothing. It's that person's body that they get to decide what they do with, and who sees it, feels it, touches it, enjoys it. Mm-hmm. And it's not up for the random person to just be like, hey, I'm just gonna catcall this person, or quote unquote compliment this person because I enjoy their body. Like, that's not That's not for you to decide.
No, because if you see someone just walking, enjoying their day, and you're having this intrusive thought to tell them how nice their figure looks, or to lay your hand on your horn, or to make that kind of sound, think about it. And think about how you would feel if someone did that to your daughter, your mother, your sister, your son, your brother, your no matter who it is. And
just let the thought pass and don't do anything about it. You don't have to act on everything that you think. You can think. We are not telling you how to think or controlling your thoughts. We're telling you control your actions. You don't say everything you think, so do the same thing with your actions.
Right. And it's up to us to control our thoughts and our actions, and learn from experiences like this, and learn from information, whether it comes from a podcast like this or something like a post on our Instagram, or no matter where the source comes from. If it's widely known that many women don't like being catcalled, maybe you should think, is what I'm about to say catcalling? Is what I'm about to say gonna possibly ruin this person's day? Also, like, we have said a lot of gendered language today, and we have really harped on women, and that this happens to women. And I know that it meets with comments saying it happens to men too. It's men aren't the only ones who catcall. Men aren't the only ones who do revenge porn, and we do understand that. We try to raise awareness for all genders, all types of people. But with general information like this, it's so widely reported that men are very often the perpetrators of this basic harassment. And it's something that can be learned from for everybody. And it's all of our responsibilities to let the people in our lives know, hey, like, don't do that. Whether it's a friend of yours or a family member who's acting inappropriately like this, it doesn't matter what their gender is. What they're doing is wrong.
So a few, like, wrap-up call to action points that I think. Consent is very easy to understand.
Mm-hmm.
If someone is uncomfortable or doesn't seem to be receptive of what you're saying, walk away. Leave the situation alone. Mm-hmm. Don't talk about it anymore. And never objectify anyone. And if you have, let it be in the past and don't do it again. Learn from your mistakes.
Learn from it. And spread the word and spread awareness for what is and isn't acceptable. I think it's very easy to recognize when things aren't okay. And if you find yourself questioning, is what I'm doing or saying, like, okay, is this okay? Is this acceptable? Then maybe you shouldn't do or say that thing.
And you should ask someone. There's no harm in researching what you need to know and what's consent and what isn't. Like, and a lot of people will be willing to talk to you. Make sure you go to a reliable source, but a lot of people will be willing to talk to you, and there's a lot of resources out there.
Start conversations. We love having conversations. If you want to reach out to us in the comment section or in our DMs on Instagram or something, we love to facilitate conversations about this kind of stuff.
And you can always reach out to us with your stories, or if you want to come on the show, or if you want us to talk about something, feel free to always reach out.
We are always here to listen. We love you guys. And I do think that's it for today.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in.
And once again, I'm Claire.
And I'm Gracie.
Thank you.